right, we are live. And what's this? Okay. Um, Let me share the link to general chat so that people could actually like start viewing.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, okay, okay.
it's no problem. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. So I think we are good now. So good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me? Um, FX, I think it's basically both of us that can hear each other. So every other person will
Yeah,
like just
yeah,
follow up on the chat.
okay, yeah. Obi now, what's up, man?
Mm,
Yeah, I don't think I can connect. I can chat in the. I don't think I can chat in the comments because I have to connect my Twitter or something.
oh.
No
Maybe
need.
just
I
like
probably will
respond
just
with
use my phone.
Twitter directly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, on Twitter
just try
directly.
my just try on my phone. Yeah, what's up, G? What's up,
Okay.
guys? Sorry, I'm
So
in iOS side, so like I don't understand a lot of. It's not my space. Yeah.
okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
The network is lagging.
Is it? I
As-
can hear it properly.
Let me see. I'm hearing myself like multiple times.
Try
But can
muting
you hear me
something.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Try
Okay, then
muting
it's
something. Probably
fine.
have. Yeah, yeah. Try muting. Maybe like a. Maybe like a this thing, like another device that you probably have in the background.
Okay. Is it better now?
Mm. No, no, I'm fine. I'm without the headphones. I'm actually talking about you that's hearing double.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me, I'm.
So
Yeah, me.
it's good now. So let's just get to it. So with everybody, we are basically like going to be talking about Bifrost. So everybody could actually like remember, is it 2 weeks now or 3 weeks? What was the first post
Um,
made?
I think it was last month. To be honest, I think yeah.
Last month.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks. Let's say 3 weeks.
Yeah, that actually like made headlines. Everybody was like, who does this?
I don't know about headlines though, because
Come
like
on,
I've seen
this
headlines.
guy
This
should know.
oh
Codex, that's Colosseum Codex, Spartan
oh
Nigeria with
yeah, yeah.
team, made it to like a whole lot of, I think so, a whole lot of persons carried it. Talk more of Toli and a whole lot of persons who were actually like arguing about Bifrost, something like this is the next killer app. So they're like, oh, this, that. So it was just like a whole lot of things happening like on the timeline. But then maybe you could
Mm.
just give us like in simple terms, like what is Bifrost? Like what actually like prompted you to doing that, and why does it even like matter like for Solana developers?
Okay, so like I guess if I'm going to start from the like the sequential progression of why, then what, then then how does it affect? I think I'll just start from so why like it basically wasn't even really like my original idea. It was Alexandro, the performance team of Anza. He was like, it would be super cool if somebody built like a way for us to send like transactions from your browser to like the CPU, via web transport. Just basically, no, I don't. I think he said it would be cool, super cool if somebody like if we could send transactions from browsers to the TPU via web transport proxy, something like that. And then I think that very day or a few weeks after when he said it in particular, I just built it because like you were one of those free nights I just had. I just like sprinted, had a few hours, went on to build it, and I just like kept it, in typical my fashion. I just kept it because like I didn't think it was clean enough. I didn't think it was clean enough. I didn't think I needed to put it out. But I just had it stashed somewhere. And then I think for some reason again, it came up, that the conversation came up. I don't know for some reason. But then like I guess some guys were in the comment section saying, oh, we had to modify the validator TPU port to add like quick compatibility, and all those like many like almost alluding to the fact that oh, it needs to be done, like it needs more complexity to be done, or it can be done like as of now. And I guess that was kind of like I was not like I kind of said, um, oh, I have this working end to end. It's just messy, And was
Yeah.
like, Alexandra was like, "Oh, if it's messy, just like put it out there. If it's messy, just put it out there. Nobody really gives a fuck about like whether it's messy or not." And then I said, "Okay, now, all right, bet." Then I just spent like a few hours. Like I just got off. I think I was talking to my girlfriend, so I got off that. I went straight into work. Like I just had like a few hours to like polish it up, just clean it up, test it to make sure that it was actually fucking working, and it wasn't just me. So yeah, like I guess that, and then I put it out there and just like, oh, I already had the name in my head, so it wasn't as I just came up with it. It was like introducing Bifrost. Bifrost is like this mythical bridge between Asgardians, the realm of the gods, and the realm of men or the
Mm.
mortals. If you watch a lot of Thor, or if you read Norse mythology, I read a lot of Northern mythology growing up. I also like this. What's the name of this show? Or this other guy, Marvel. That's a Thor Ragnarok. So a lot of those, all those references
Yeah.
basically came from there, from Hiem Dial. So like it wasn't really like, oh, I just did everything one day. No, like it was just like, like I had the name ready to go. If you go to Asylum, there's a repo I had, like a README, is called Kilimanjaro, and that's where I'll be mostly posting all my RPC stuffs from. So like I had Bifrost coming soon. I just didn't think about it. I just didn't think about releasing it like until I was having like until I cleaned it up, did somebody, because I didn't really have time to do a lot of things that could have gotten it to like 100%. I didn't do like comprehensive leader schedule tracking, compile it to WhatsApp, put on the. I didn't do all of that, so I just like I just like so I did that, and like I just cleaned it up and I put it out. I was like introducing Bifrost, send RPC, because I tested it on the local validator and it worked. If you worked on the local validator, I knew that any other problem is going to be over the network, not necessarily compatibility. So like
Yeah.
I put it out there and I was like, oh, and the thing just like blew up. I did not orchestrate that blow up in any way, shape, or form. I did not even expect it. It was one of just my posts. I just post shit, like it just blew up. And I had a lot of people arguing in the comment, and I had to defend my code, So yeah, I defended, like, obviously now, why did you build this? Why did you do that? Why did you? Alexa, I think
Yeah.
Anatoly was asking me like, what's the whole point if you can't skip like IP tables? Like if you can't do the logic drop packets on an IP
Mm.
table, something of that sort. So like I had to defend my code, but like yeah, it blew up. Went. It gave me a lot of reputation. Like I saw teams reach out to me, which is actually cool because these are teams I actually like fuck with. I love them. I respect those teams. So it was very, very cool to have these teams reach out to me, to like kind of like, oh, we've been seeing your work. Because like it kind of gave me like kind of like an exposure to the people I respect. You understand? Like I have a lot of exposure on the Solana space, but like I have very, very tiny exposure in the people I actually fuck with on Solana. You know, the core engineers and some other guys. I have like little exposure to them. So that just basically just propelled me into that space. Now, like I just had like a lot of people like reaching out to me and like asking questions about the thing. You know, so it's kind of like was like a compounding effect, like kind of like a flywheel because when they got to my repo, they didn't just see Bifrost, they saw RPCX, they saw like a lot of things I've done in the past, and you know that was kind of like the instigator for like the oh, we should come together, we should talk, you know. So I guess that was kind of like the how it came about. Yeah. So what is Bifrost? So Bifrost is a web transport proxy for selling Solana transactions from the browser to the validator. Now that's kind of like a mouthful. I don't like to, I don't like to talk about things in that mouthful manner. So I'm going to just like break it down. So web transport. So I'm going to start from I think TCP, UDP, which are like basically like transport protocols built on top of IP. You know, and like the one that we're most comfortable with is like TCP. We use TCP a lot under the hood of many of the internet protocols that the network protocols that we like HTTP. The present HTTP tool that's prevalent
Yeah.
on the internet is built over TCP. You know, so like we are very, very sorry, very, very conversant with TCP. TCP, we use a lot of TCP because number one, TCP is reliable, you know, and number two, like it has a lot of, should I say, compatibility with like computers. You know, it predates. I think the TCP network stack is like 40 years old, if not more. You know, like if not more. So like it predates even like a lot of us. You know, it's been here for a long time, so it's very compatible. Then like it has this feature where like it has a reliability like has reliability. So like TCP guarantees that all the packets sent from somewhere would reach the other end. You know, and there's the alternative, which is UDP. UDP doesn't have those guarantees, but UDP is lighter than TCP. You know, it's lighter, it's faster, it doesn't have the overhead. You know,
Yeah.
so I think in 20, I think 2010s, 2020, 2010, 22, 2010, 2011, 12, 13, 14. I don't know the exact period. Just around that time, some guys at Google created this new transport layer on top of UDP itself that basically wrapped around UDP and basically gave it like TCP level powers. So it gave it that reliability, and they call it Quick, you know. And Quick has been around for a while, but definitely not as old as these other guys. But then Quick is what a lot of validator clients are built on top of because you know they have to be light and all that stuff. So validator, uh, Solana's validator transaction processing unit is basically like the ingestion point of all the transactions. So whenever you send a transaction to a Solana validator client, or whenever the RPC, which is the middleman, is sitting between you and the validator, like is sending. So the RPC will take your transaction request in like JSON or whatever format you're sending it as, and it's going to like forward that to the validator's TPU port, and that TPU port is kind of like is a quick port, so it expects the packets in quick, like a quick packet. It expects a quick packet. So for taking like Alexandro's tweet into question, like it, what I just needed to do was that okay, Quick is not supported on the browser. Like you can't use direct Quick on the browser, but what you can use on the browser is something called HTTP3, you know, and HTTP3 is kind of like the new evolution of HTTP that's not built over Quick, you know, but it hasn't gotten a lot of traction. So there was something very similar to like what like web transport is something is like HTTP3's version of WebSockets. So we have WebSockets. You know, WebSocket allows subscription and data streams between two endpoints. You
Yeah.
know exactly. So and then like web transport is basically the evolution of that from a quick TCP perspective. So what happened was that like I had to now, okay, so web browser supports web browser supports web transport, you know, which is like
Okay.
HTTP3, you know. So what I needed to do was that I had to first of all ingest the packet, like a HTTP3 packet, strip it, strip it of all the HTTP3 frames. So if you look at the quick packet, they have the original raw quick packet, and when you have like a HTTP3, because HTTP3 is built on top of quick, you see like a lot of HTTP3 framing on top of that quick packet to basically give it extra information that like browsers can share over like with each other, you know. So I had to first get this HTTP3 stream and then strip it down to the raw quick packet and then forward it to the validator TPU port. Obviously, I had like some issues with what was it like CRDs, like certificates and all of this stuff. But like you
Wow.
know, love the source of truth is the Solana validator client. If you can read it, you can understand what exactly you need to do. That's the biggest doc. You know, that's the biggest documentation. And for me, I'm very like I'm very comfortable around like Rust code, so it wasn't really
So
difficult for me to like
we
find my
continue.
way around.
Let me just share this. So for those of us that might not really like know how Solana works, so there's this
Yeah.
report that he use dev docs could actually like dive deep down and actually like understand like some of the stuff he's talking about. But yeah, can
Mm.
continue.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of like just like looking at what current Agave was doing, and like just like re-implementing. You know, like shout out to the guys that actually stripped down the crates. You know, it used to be very blobby back in the day, but now it's not like very like crates. They're like crates that are built for specific functions, and you know, like that really made the work a lot easier. So you know, I just took out the crates I needed, composed on top of those scripts, and then like I just built out Bifrost, and it was kind of like you know it worked. And when it worked, I just like stashed it, you know. So cleaned it up after like seeing like demand for it, you know, and I put it out there. But that's basically like how Bifrost works. It takes a HTTP3 packet, strips it down to a raw quick packet, and then forwards it to the validator. And so this particular proxy allows for the end-to-end has yet it allows for the end-to-end communication between the browser client and the validator without an
Yeah.
RPC intermediary. Yeah. So, but like there were a few things that I needed to do to get it there, but I've been so busy with a lot of stuff. But like the guys at Paladin, shout out to them. They made a PR. I think Artemix, yeah, he made a PR adding the leader schedule tracker. And I'm supposed to even review the PR today. Yeah, before I go to bed, I'm going to review the PR. So yeah, like they made a PR to add the leader tracker. I'm going to like probably post it next week, you know, when I review. But like, yeah, the amazing support from Paladin on Bifrost, you know. So like once that is done, I guess we just have to go into production. All these,
Right.
all of this to say that Bifrost is just kind of like so that's an experiment of some sort to see how stable or to see the demand stable and to see the demand for um, direct validator, like direct transaction forwarding to like validator. Once we can rack all of that up, like once the answer engineers see that this is like see that it's stable and it's calm, they can now add like HTTP3 on the like HTTP3 support on validator CPU. And I
Wow.
guess that's just like the final stage. So like by the time where they add the HTTP3 support on validator CPU, there will be no need for a proxy Bifrost to die, but like then Bifrost has done the job it was originally intended, which is like a way for us to test something, you know, to see how number one important something is, or to see like how stable it is without like a major future gate PR on Solana and like on the validator client. So yeah,
Okay.
I guess that's just like
Don't say
Bifrost in like a
like
nutshell. Yeah.
anything else out of one I was about to ask. So, but let me
Yeah.
just ask this question, so because I know that the whole problem started with RPCs, right?
Mm,
The inefficiencies and some of the things that
mm.
comes around with them. So let's say
Yeah.
what does actually Bifrost solve that current based RPCs kind of struggle with that actually made it to build it?
Yeah, so I don't think like RPCs themselves infrastructurally are like inefficient. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. They are, but like I don't think if in terms of like a user facing perspective, like the client, like the user, the end user, I don't think the user can see that problem. It's not a user experience problem. It's more of like a if you can see the code, you know how ineffective it is. But that's like a separate conversation. I guess the problem that Bifrost was kind of like, it's kind of like trying to solve here is more of a permissionlessness thing where anybody anywhere can send transactions directly to the validator without having to bother about, oh, is my transaction being censored? Am I being front run? Is my order flow being sold out? Do you get what I'm saying? Because like the moment you yield your transactions to like an RPC, you're basically entrusting all of that information, all of that state, the like pre-information to a validator, and you're just trusting them to be good, like be of goodwill to this transaction, and that's not even really
Yeah,
like it's not really I won't say it's a big problem. I don't want to be one of those pretenders and come and be overselling. It's not really a big problem because like RPCs are mostly trusted. Triton, Helios guys, they're cool people. So like we don't really have that big a deal of a problem when it comes to like selling out order flow. But I guess like Bifrost is just one of those cool things to have in your stack type of solutions. It's kind of like how nobody's really checking like for nobody's really going to like prove state with light clients, but like it's a nice to have thing. In the case of this, for people
yeah,
that would want to land transactions faster, that's without the hop. You understand? Without the hop in between, Bifrost kind of like a solution. Bifrost is one of the fastest. Like if and when done correctly, Bifrost will be like one of the fastest way to land your transactions on Solana. So because like you kind
okay,
of like miss the hop. Obviously, like we now, it's also Bifrost is also I feel like one of the value propositions for Bifrost is that it also opens up that SWQS debate. It's kind of like, oh, for a long time, Cisco's has been like the de facto, this is how we as a network are trudging along, and like Bifrost, like solutions like Bifrost basically open that up to like new debates. Okay, let's talk about this now. Let's talk about this again, looking at Bifrost, like looking at solutions like Bifrost. So I guess like those are the value propositions I see Bifrost doing, not necessarily from a technical user experience like standpoint, but more of a if we are originally of the paradigm that everything should be like quote unquote permissionless, we should try and push like our entire stack to permissionlessness rather than having like middle people, like people in the middle incentivizing or like basically taking up spots that basically puts that centralize one part of the network or one process transaction flow part of the network, something like that. So I
okay.
guess yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I
so
guess that's the vibe.
what I would say is like so Bifrost is just like an option for someone that actually like wants to build more permissionless application that kind of want to
Yeah,
strip away forms of like centralization around whatever is building. So do you think
yeah.
like Bifrost would actually like scale better, like between a DeFi app and a gaming application? Which of these two applications do you think would need Bifrost like if given an option like, okay, I want to be like a DeFi application, I'm going to be doing a
Mm,
whole lot of swapping, doing a lot of lending, borrowing, and all that. Now I want to build the game.
mm,
Now movements
yeah.
in the game needs to be like recorded on chain and all that. Among these two, which one do you think would actually like need Bifrost better?
I guess like Bifrost is originally designed for like more of like MEV. It's like a MEV type thing. Like you want your transaction to land and you want it to land without any not like you want it to land with nothing in the middle. You want to have full control of like everything from the point of when you the way you build a transaction to the ingestion at the TPU ports, like everything is like based on your own skill issue. I guess Bifrost is like kind of like your guy. Now I don't think like Bifrost has like in terms of like actual latency, like we're talking about if we're not talking about like trading and trying to like be faster than the other person. I guess if we're using like normal regular, DeFi and swaps and all those stuff, I guess like there's really no value add if you use Bifrost. I think Bifrost is just for the high frequency traders and people that want to like front run you on your own swap. So while you are using your RPCs and all those to like people that are using Bifrost probably like land their transaction better. It's basically just like I'll think of it as like more of a framework for people that can code that want to land their transaction without bullshit. I guess that's just like the best way to even describe it. If you can write code, or you don't even need to write code. If you can, if you understand what is going on there, if you want to land your transaction without anything in the middle, I guess like Bifrost is just kind of like your guy. So it's more of a, I'm going to put it on a MEV, so like more like DeFi. Should I say DeFi? Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so you want to make a swap on like probably like Jupiter, for instance, and you don't want like to deal with the routing and all this whole, you just basically like want to reduce the risks of slippage between like n amount of time, I think Bifrost is your guy because before you do those two hops, if you're collocated with the leader or something like that, you
Yeah.
understand, you could just or closer to the leader, you can just like forward your transaction straight and like it's gonna hit before probably an RPC, that kind of thing. But
But
like,
then since
just kind of, yeah,
browser,
yeah,
but since it's more of framework that actually helps you to like send transactions from the browser, right,
yeah,
to the leader, right?
yeah,
Now, don't you think that those, let's say I'm building like a trading bot, don't it,
yeah,
can I still use Bifrost?
yeah. Bifrost is a perfect solution for that. Like
Okay.
if yeah, yeah. So like it's kind of like, so with Bifrost you can just think of Bifrost as this like first of all, Bifrost is like a proxy. Yeah, so there's always going to be that one hop. We have to be honest about that. But it's also kind of like if you're trading on a browser and you don't want to have to deal with, like, I just guess the whole point of Bifrost is kind of like the permissionlessness and the conversations around the XWQS is more of a trigger that is called like a forcing function. It's kind of like a for I would think of it as a forcing function over like a product in itself. I don't think it's a
Mm,
product that somebody has to sell, or this is better than N or better than X. I guess it's more of a, oh, this is how we could do this without having
uh,
to do this, and basically like forces a conversation about what we're currently doing and how we can make it better. I guess that's like best way to like put that Bifrost. I don't think you'll be having any nets. Like I like if you're going to have any advantage whatsoever, it's kind of like you are going to have to be better than whoever is implementing like an RPC, which is also like a hard thing to do. Because like, okay, there's RPCs, they have
uh,
their load balancers, there are many in between, basically taking all your transactions, then forwarding to like a leader. If you want to not, because that also will build up latency, like the amount of transactions that an RPC provider will be, obviously, like if you don't want, if okay, like exactly, if you want the services of a dedicated RPC without actually having to pay for an RPC, you can just probably use Bifrost. But then like there are also like
yeah.
limitations because of SWQS. But Bifrost also forces conversations, forces like conversations about SWQS and the current state of things in the network. You understand? So I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of like the value proposition me I would be saying from Bifrost. I don't really see it as a, oh, this is an advantage for like gaming or DeFi or anything. It's just more of a like a forcing function, kind of like something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So let me just ask like one more question. So
Yeah.
say we're actually like going to be using Bifrost now to build an app, right? So what is the ideal workflow going to look like? So I want to like strip out RPC from my application, right?
Mm.
What does the ideal what is the ideal workflow going to be looking like, and how does like that change using Biflow? Say, okay, I want to build this application. It's a front end application I want to build. Normally, I'm going to use an RPC, so I'm able to like send my transactions. I'm going to use an RPC, so I can be able to like get transactions and all those type of things. So, what is the ideal? What is it going to look like in an ideal sense if I'm going to like be putting in Bifrost? So let's say remove the
Yeah. Okay.
RPC and Bifrost inside.
Yeah, so like I guess like Bifrost is easily described to me as like kind of like a component. Now Bifrost in itself doesn't really do anything apart from selling transactions. Like which from my own head
So
though,
it
like
doesn't read.
yeah, yeah,
It
like from
doesn't
my
read.
own head, it doesn't read. Yeah, it just like sends transactions. So but like Bifrost is also like a precursor, like I was saying, because it's kind of like Bifrost is just one component of things that I want to start like I
Yeah.
want to start moving. So like for the past few weeks, I get like half of my more than half of my energy has been trying to like read on re-implementing like the guy's architecture. Obviously, I'm seeing resistance. I don't even know if I could get it through, but like I'm seeing also people supporting me, you know. But like it's kind of like want to decouple the RPC from the validator. Bifrost is one of the components for doing that. It's kind of like, oh, once you decouple the RPC from the validator, you kind of lose a lot of this sending logic. You can just integrate Bifrost as like a component on that RPC consumer, you
Okay.
understand, from the decoupled RPC state. Then, like, you know, just basically you have a full RPC node without having to deal with all of the logic that comes with like running the RPC instance, like in status quo now. You know, so like I guess Bifrost is one of the components. It doesn't help you read, but Bifrost is going to be one of the major components for like in the new RPC states. You understand that allows you to send transactions without like running the full instance or even running any instance at all. You know, just something lightweight if I want to send just transactions. You know, so Bifrost is just sending transactions. If we're talking about reading, there's a whole nother suite of like tools I have. You understand that basically meant for that reading state. But like Bifrost is just like a precursor. It's a precursor for like a lot of things that I've been trying to do on the RPC layer, on the read layer on Solana. You know, so like if you're talking about read, it's kind of like I'm going to have more information on reading if and when like I've done an answer merges like this PR. You understand? So like that will now basically it will force the necessity of Bifrost in a sense. So if you
Okay.
split the validator, if you split the RPC code from the validator code and you make it like standalone out of process, it's kind of like then you will now need something like Bifrost because Bifrost now becomes the de facto way to send transactions, you know, in the network. You know, something like that, like or not necessarily Bifrost in itself, but like more of a something very similar to Bifrost, something very light like Bifrost, you know. So yeah,
Hmm.
I guess it's just like it's just a moving component in a
So
larger play.
you can't
Yeah,
strip off the whole RPC layer out of your application, or even while still using Bifrost. So it only helps you to like send and
send
land
transaction.
like and oh, that's good.
Yeah,
So apart from
yeah.
like it doesn't trade, what are like some of the other trade-offs that we actually be aware of that Bifrost can do for us?
So yeah, like currently, I'll put the trade off as currently before I make the trade off as post the way I see the read layer looking like in like a few months from now, like pending all the moving pieces. It's kind of like now the trade-offs of using Bifrost is just basically like if you're not a dev, flexibility, depending on who is using it, flexibility because it's not everybody that can tweak that schedule and kind of like you know kind of like going back to the code. You know, some people don't give a fuck. They just want to like get their transaction to land. I want to connect to mainnet at kini endpoints, you know, and like I want to send this transaction and I don't want to think about it again, you know. So no many like if you're thinking about like swapping your USDC or sending to somebody else, 1 second, 2 seconds doesn't really matter, you know. But like when you start going into the world of MEV and trading, like
Yeah.
then 100 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds is a lot of time,
Do
you
you
know.
even get to think that something like Humidify, they could actually like use something like Bifrost?
Whom defy?
Yeah, I think it's actually like it could actually be like a
Okay,
bit of
humid.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I get, yeah, I guess that's probably one of the proper use cases of Bifrost, yeah, because they are latency centric. I,
yeah.
but you know the funny thing is that I guess they have something Bifrost adjacent. That's
That's
what
what I'm
I
trying.
like. yeah, I guess they have something Bifrost. Like those guys are fucking cracked. Like they probably
Yeah,
have something Bifrost adjacent. Probably just sending transactions directly to the TPU. Right? I think Ellipsis guys they know their shit, so they probably have that in the burner. They have something like that in the bag. Yeah, I
exactly.
don't think, I don't really think they'll be using RPCs. That's like my own, like off the top of my head. I don't really think they'll be using like RPCs in the full
Yeah,
instance of an
because
RPC. Yeah,
131 updates like at is it in a
exactly.
millisecond? I mean,
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy. And
yeah, so they probably will be using some
yeah,
modified code or something, but it's going to be very like Bifrost actually. I feel like the, the things that are very similar to Bifrost, tools that are very similar to Bifrost. If you know temporal Nozomi, Nozomi, I guess that's like
mm,
basically Bifrost. It's basically Bifrost, but it's just like Nozomi doesn't really accept. I don't know if they do, but like I don't think they accept like web. I don't think you can send transactions from the web. I think you have to send transactions to like an endpoint, which is close to like a proxy.
yeah, yeah. Don't know if it's my network. Can you guys hear me? Um, can somebody like send a message in the chat if you guys can hear me? I think FX is struggling, or maybe am I the one? Oh, okay. Okay. Hello, FX, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear
Yes,
you.
I
I use
think you
network
robbed.
disconnected.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. I use network
So
disconnected.
we are
So
talking
like,
like
yeah,
about
so like,
Nozomi.
yeah, I guess like more like Nozomi, like you send transactions to like an endpoint, and the endpoint forwards it to like the validator. Or I don't know how Nozomi works under the hood, but I guess those are the similarities. It's more like Nozomi and less like I say like RPC this thing. So Nozomi is just basically like latency critical like transaction landing service. I guess that's what more of what like Nozomi does. So I guess that's kind of like what Bifrost will be doing, but it's like open source and like you can use it from the web. Yeah, so I guess yeah, exactly. That's the value prop. I guess like Bifrost is kind of quote unquote like Nozomi, but then you can build your transactions on the web and then send it on the web. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I guess that's
So
more of what it is. Yeah.
definitely Nozomi on the web, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But and also open source. Also open source.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think before talking about what do you think what do you think about open source? Because I know that most of the crazy things that happened this period was mostly around people who open source their products and people who could actually like build products and ship it to open source. I think the drive around building on Solana is veering towards people who could actually ship and open source whatever they are doing for others to actually
Yeah.
like look at it, help out with it. You could see blue shifts. I think when I spoke with Losty, the type of open
Mm,
source was you could contribute. They will read if it makes sense. They will tell you to okay, now you can work on it, right?
yeah.
So like the culture around open source on Solana is actually shifting, and I guess Bifrost being what it is now, obviously you have worked on it, and probably you already said that you are kind of lazing about around it, waiting for when you do this, do that. But immediately, like the whole open source stuff came out, you're able to like clean up the code and push it and look at where it is now. Everybody's talking about it. I can remember some of the conversation we had behind the scenes about some people even asking, "Oh, how far? What did you do about this and all that?" So, what do you think about like open source culture currently right now, like on Solana? And what do you think like general developers right now? Because I guess like a whole lot of them are on the call should actually like veer towards, especially currently now, like everybody's whole attention is towards like open source projects.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. So yeah, originally I think I'm kind of biased because like I'm a cypherpunk. Like so like there's nothing I would say that's gonna be like against open source. But you should like if you're a business or you're going to make money from something, you should try and not make. be open sourcing everything. But like I'm kind of like biased, yeah. So like I always open source my cool stuff. Maybe as I get older, I start to withhold stuff. But like I think for the longest, like and even for the foreseeable future, I would still be open sourcing everything. The open source culture on Solana is pretty great actually. It's kind of like so we were just like a bunch of kids basically being sniped into into most of the stuff that we're building today. Like who wasn't sniped into building like the entry point? Like the guys from I think the guys from Naga Prasad, Zen Zen, like Dean. I won't even say like Dean is also like in someone that basically would tell you like Dean is the kind of person that if you go back on his Twitter, you check out like probably just stuff that Dean would talk about. You should probably go build that because that's something of value. So I don't think I think it's Dean that snipes other people. Yeah. So but like it's kind of like the open source culture is kind of like super cool on Solana. It's kind of like the should I say like the most enabling environment for us, especially as Nigerian, beyond all these things. It's a way for us to like basically just prove ourselves, right? Prove ourselves in like the global scene, show that we can do stuff and just basically get rewarded for it. It doesn't have to be like monetary. Social points too matter because like reputation, you're building like a career, you're building a brand and everything in between. Yeah, but like the open source culture in Solana it reminds me of like the Netscape era, like in the early browser days. You're just like a bunch of kids just coming together to like build stuff that they think is cool to impress their friends, But those things turn out to be something, things what's what's serious value, And I guess like Solana is an enabling environment for that, and you see that kind of culture being set from the top. You see
Yeah.
the Anza engineers and like bigger senior developers the space basically encouraging people to like put out code like in all forms of support like basically like answering your questions, like hopping on calls with you. I can't even begin to like talk about the amount of support that we have received over this like course of few months trying to just kind of like make sense of this entire systems engineering stack on Solana. So like we kind of like split ourselves into multiple divisions, not formally though. It's more like informally. We just kind of like, oh, I do more of network. Some other person does more of block engines. The other person does more of compilers. This other person does more of that kind of. So yeah, so like yeah, but we've seen a lot of support from like core engineers, like and like a lot of people from reputable teams, just basically just like cheering you on, and that's sometimes all you need. You don't want to let them down, and you don't also want to let the people behind you down. So you just kind of like push yourself to like keep doing stuff. So that kind of culture also is very, very, it's very, very like it pushes you into the burner, and then basically you cook in there. Like you don't come out until you know your stuff. And I guess this last 5 months have been very, very should I say like um should I say like what's the word? Like I gained a ton of knowledge, a shit ton of knowledge. Yeah, in the last 5 months, I there's this thing I always have is like insight. I used to tell my girlfriends to say it's like neuroplasticity. Like my brain expanded. Like I finally concepts I struggled with. I finally now understand. I had that like 3 times in the last 5 months, like 3 times. Like so, I'm very comfortable. I'm now very comfortable with things I used to struggle with. Like and like there are other things to like uncover, other things to learn. This kind of stuff. The open source community is basically one of the safest places for you to do all of that.
Or a network.
That's why sorry, I got a call.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm, Yeah, so like I was saying that like the open source culture on Solana is basically like one of the best places for you to like one of the safest places for you to go and like explore this intelligence, this insights, garner it for yourself, get better, get better, get better. Which is why I'm very, very wary of condescending people. Like I don't like people that like if you're such a brilliant engineer, why can't you just like put people on? Like people, most of the people I respect these days are people that are so fucking supportive. Brilliant engineers that we probably don't even know if we're going to ever be on their level, but like, they still find time in their day to day like activities to like respond to our questions, help us out, put us on the right paths, this kind of things. And then I guess that's kind of like the most important thing for like I guess that's kind of like the most important thing when you're coming to like a space as a developer. And Solana's culture deeply reflects that, and you can see that culture being set from the top. People that are on the top are not afraid to be wrong. They themselves they get clowned for like past design decisions, and it just creates that safety net for failing and failing fast and learning fast from those failures. So
All
I
right.
guess.
So basically, it's more of like open source and building the open combined together. So you
Yeah, you have
like
you have
them.
you have, you have absolutely nothing to lose. You have absolutely nothing to lose.
All right. So before we end the call, like is there like any upcoming improvements or areas let's say people can contribute to Bifrost? We already know like is the web proxy transport layer of sending transactions from the browser to validator, and we've talked about like few persons contributing and all that. And I guess there are like people who also like net sniped because to be honest with you, maybe let's say 50% of the persons currently on this conversation we're having right now might not even know what we're talking about. So so then for those that actually like kind of have an idea of what it is, I've already like shared like I think there's this Helios report that was, I think it's a very good start for somebody that wants to know how Solana works and how you could actually like get around it. It kind of has a little deep dive. But then I think when you're done with that, you could actually like start exploring other areas, say blue shift and the rest. But then that aside, is there like any upcoming improvements or areas that you think people could actually like contribute to? Or do you think
Mm.
Bipod acts as an experiment is complete once Anza actually like sort out the HTTP3 stuff on the validator side?
Yeah, yeah. So like Bifrost as an experiment is concluded like when Anza does sort out the HTTP3 on the TPU, but like it's not going to do that. And they're not going to do that now, and like that's why Bifrost is necessary. The Bifrost is basically a way for them to test first of all the demand, then the stability, before they now move on to doing the big change. So FX, you need to be. I'm going to be in breakpoints pending my visa. I am, but you see, I was in neutral land. Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah. So like, it's like, what did I want to say before Expolites? Yeah. So like,
Yeah,
yeah, like
uh,
So it's as much as an experiment. The lifetime for that experiment is still very wide. Like it's still very wide before so you can kind of like make your PRs. Although I'm seeing that the leader tracker, which was one of the major PRs, is being sorted out. But you could also do more things on the client side, like the web browser. Like I want to test some code being compiled. Like I want to just throw myself at like probably even implementing the leader schedule tracker compiled to WASM on the browser. I want to see myself. I want to throw myself at that. Like when I do have free time, but like because I'm not really incentivized to like work on Bifrost, like the things that I've been trying to like put my energy on is like really really tough stuff. So like I'm just mostly there, but like when I do pick up Bifrost, which is not it's not far at all, like probably gonna be like third week of this month or something. I have it like scheduled. So I would like to see the leader tracker stable, although there's a pending PR for that. I'd like to see more optimization on like the connections, like basically like ideas for like the connections on the client to the proxy side. I would also like to see if I like if there's any major overhead by compiling the leader tracker to like WhatsApp and putting it on the browser just for end-to-end communication. I want to see all of that. So if anybody can like implement that, that would be super cool. If you can implement that before me, super cool. Like I'm not really a major person, but you're gonna get a shout out. Like, it's kind of like that would take off a lot of work from me, and you want to like prove yourself. That's one of the best places you just kind of not even necessarily for proving yourself. More like if you want to learn,
Yeah,
you just maybe
actually.
just find yourself inside those
Mm.
repos. Yeah,
Uh, Let me just share the repo on the chat. So anybody that wants to just take a look
yeah. Thanks,
and
man.
just see how it goes around there. So I don't think there is much more questions because obviously the beginning part of the conversation we really actually like did a very good deep dive around Bifrost, the reason why, and also the need why we should actually like test out validator app interaction instead of an RPC
Mm,
app, sorry, an app RPC validator kind of interaction. So thank you very much for just jumping in on the space. Maybe we'll look
yeah,
out for more cool stuff you guys to be shipping. I think the year is already
yeah.
over, but then shipping doesn't like stop. So
It doesn't stop. Shipping
during
doesn't
the
stop. Yeah,
yeah, all right,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, guys. I don't know if anybody has like any question on the chat before we call it a day. So I'll kind of like, let's say in the next 2 to 3 minutes, if you have a question, you could drop it in the chat and I'll ask FX. Or FX will basically like see it before we call it a day. So in the absence of that, it means there is no question. All right. All
Yeah,
right
cheers,
now.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So bye. Yeah.